Hi, I'm Sara. We have already set our intentions and our prayers for this session, so enjoy and learn.
When was Genesis written? The book in the Bible?
Which version?
The original version. Scholar says like 6,000 years ago. I think it was a lot way before that.
When it was actually thought out and put to paper,
Yes.
or what passed as paper. It wasn't quite 6,000 years ago, but the ideas and the knowledge and the history took place then and longer ago. I mean, I'm not explaining it very well, but it was actually put down in some sort of writing on scrolls, and some of it on papyrus, some of it on clay tablets, depending on the location and the exact time. But you do understand the history goes back even farther.
Yes. I do.
So I can't really give you a date.
Okay.
Anyway, yes.
So in other words, the date the theologians set of 6,600 years ago is about right for the writing of it, the putting down to paper, the recording of it. I know the Great Flood supposedly was whenever Atlantis fell, in that time frame, which was 12,000 years ago by current times.
Your so-called scholars, no, I'm not going to say it that way, but they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they know that. It's based on what they can determine. This
They
is
like
what
to
it is.
think
Yep.
they know. But, yeah, it's not as simple an answer as looking at a calendar and, oh, yeah, that was the date.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically over a period of years. Maybe even over a
Decades.
period of centuries.
Perhaps.
Okay.
And then, of course, as people, mankind began to mythologize a lot of it. A lot of the history was handed down vocally.
Yes.
Yes. And then when it was being written down, a lot of it was very mythic. And depending on who was writing, who was trying to put it down. Okay, that's a good idea. It's kind of like your children's game of telephone. The more people got involved with it and the farther distant the writing was from the actual history, yeah.
The more it changed.
Yeah. So there's no I can't say set in stone, because there are clay tablets and then they harden. But there's no hard and fast facts. A lot of facts are coming out. A lot of it, your so-called experts are figuring out bits and pieces of the truth.
This next question is related, and it's not in my list of questions. There has been a large cavernous room discovered under the Sphinx using ground penetrating radar.
Very good.
Finally got it out. Is that a storage location for information, or what is it? Your face looks funny.
What?
You just made a face.
I thought I was making a lot of different faces in all our meetings, but anyway.
Well, this was the funniest one. If you don't want to comment, that's fine too.
It is not to be divulged at this time.
Sounds good to me. In the last session, you said that the ego and the mind are almost the same thing. Please expand what almost means.
You know what almost means. Let me put it to you this way. The mind is a product of your physiology. The ego utilizes the mind to do its job and to overdo its job.
Okay.
In other words, trying to go to sleep and trying to meditate, whatever, and your mind's racing.
Mm-hmm.
Ego and mind together.
Okay. I'll have more questions on that later. In the books that I'm currently reading, the author states that many of the ET experiments conducted on Earth were performed using viruses. Is that statement correct? Or do you need me to explain what I'm asking a little more in depth?
No, but I want to tell you that there have been experiments with viruses, utilizing viruses on Earth because they do mutate so rapidly.
Yes.
And so readily. But I'm not sure that's exactly what you meant by your question.
No. What I meant, let me backtrack a little bit. What are you looking for?
She has some
More.
water.
Back. There it is.
Oh,
And there's a lid on it.
yes.
We are using a technology known as CRISPR. I don't know what it stands for. Where we use parts of DNA strands to replace other DNA strands. Proteins replace DNA strands. That is similar process to what some viruses can do whenever they make adaptations to the body, changes to the body to improve it, to be careful, there's an open glass of water there too, right by your fingertips, which the cat drinks. I didn't want you to knock it over.
Thank you.
And the book I was reading, speaking of which, hello, enjoy your nap in the dryer? You did?
You didn't turn it on, I hope.
No, he likes to sleep in there when there's clothes in it. So what, he says. You just do. You know, jump up and sit on the team. No? Okay.
You're sassy right now, aren't you?
He usually is when he wakes up. Anyhow, viruses have been used, and they also are being used today to make changes to
Come on up.
people's DNA and RNA. it's a living organism that can make changes to our DNA. And some of the experiments, the author has stated some of the experiments was like releasing a virus into the atmosphere to make a change to the population on Earth in an effort to help it advance. Not all would advance, only some would. I'm just trying to determine if there's any truth to that statement.
Mostly by releasing. Yeah, okay. It had been done.
Okay, that's
Releasing viruses. The only way it helped humanity to progress or to grow or develop was by killing off the weaker ones.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
that's a possibility.
it didn't work quite the way the ETs who did that
Okay.
wanted it to.
As you know, we recently had a thing of COVID-19 here on this planet. Could that be the purpose for COVID-19? To get rid of all the unwanted members of society?
Well, that's a rather strong statement,
It
but
is.
it is one way Gaia has attempted to heal herself.
Okay.
And those who,
Okay, I understand.
yes, it wasn't meant, that, again, it wasn't that those who died were weaker or not welcome or there was something wrong and they had to go. It was just Gaia trying to heal herself, and the virus affected people in different ways.
Okay. When Mars lost its magnetic field and atmosphere, was all the population of Mars still on the planet at that time, or had some already left the planet before that event?
Most had already found alternative digs, so to speak.
Okay. That's what I was
There were
hoping to be the
there
answer.
were quite a few living underground at that point as well.
Are there,
They're not still there.
no, I know they wouldn't be there now, they'd be dead. Are there habitats still there? Their enclosures or domiciles, whatever, are they still on the planet, underneath the planet? Or are they all collapsed? Or don't you know?
It isn't as simple as that.
Explain, please.
They're a different species. Their planet was very different at that time. So their methods of existing under the surface are not necessarily the same methods that humans would use to be under Gaia's surface.
Do you have any insight to explain what it was like for them to live underground? How did it interact with them?
They made it comfortable enough because they were already pretty comfortable on the surface of their planet. They didn't necessarily have skyscrapers and push button phones.
Yeah, I know that.
They were more in tune with their planet,
Yes.
which is how they discovered that things were going to change and they needed to.
Oh, so they did know it ahead of time.
A good portion of their scientists knew ahead of time, and began to disseminate that information gradually so as not to cause a panic, and helped the majority of them begin to travel elsewhere. They had help, hi Haisha, from ETs,
Of course.
and found new homes. They didn't have quite the vast population that Earth has either, to begin with. And those who didn't leave to go elsewhere of those, most of them had already ensconced themselves underground. The remnants of natural volcanic tubes and tunnels and stuff, plus ones that they created artificially, are still there. But you're not going to find a dinner plate or a coffee pot or a television set.
Would you find something like a stone chair or something cut out where they would sit down or something like that, or a raised platform for a bed?
There might be some that tickles. Some raised platforms, and they were more apt to sit, shall we say, cross-legged.
Okay, so they were bipedal.
And yeah, and would sit on their carpeting on the floor, on the stone floor. And they might have carved small, relatively speaking, small, flat tabletop kind of places, or shelving for storage, or anyway, it's difficult to sum up their civilization.
Oh, yes.
In one neat little package.
Mm-hmm.
But they had somewhat of an advanced warning, so they were able to, as I said, find elsewhere to live. The ones who went underground, it was because time was running out. But there was kind of a way of thinking amongst many of them that they didn't know if they could get to another viable planet in time, and they started working on underground domiciles. That's a nice word that you said. Places where they could take refuge. But they knew even if they did, it would be short-lived. But it bought them time, so to speak, for others who had left, fled the planet, found some other place to live, and they would send their ships back and pick up more people and take them. I mean, they had some time to make the move gradually, shall we say.
Okay.
And there were a few stubborn ones who said they didn't care, and they stayed on the surface and went bye-bye.
Okay.
I shouldn't say it quite like that. It wasn't that they were particularly stubborn or had anti-science leanings or anything like that. They just elected
To stay.
to stay. knowing what was going to happen, but they were okay with that. It was a choice.
Okay. So you mentioned they left the planet on ships. Was it ships they built, or were there ships that the ETs provided for them?
Some of each.
Well, it takes a pretty advanced scientific and
Let me clarify.
sure.
With the help of ETs, they were able to construct.
Oh,
They had enough of the acceptance and understanding of the science necessary. They were able to, but they needed that extra oomph, shall we say,
mm-hmm.
from the ETs who helped them find the materials and make the designs and construction and make them big enough for a good portion of the population to go. And there were, but the ETs, different ETs also brought their own ships and helped more of the population to go.
So
It was a combination of things.
when the population left, did they just scatter, or did they go to just one or two other planets?
A few other planets.
Will we Earthlings, as we continue our space adventures, ever meet them?
Possibly.
Could you give me some idea as to what star systems they went to?
Different ones. Depends on where they went.
Okay, I see. I'm not getting any more information.
When humanity lifts, in general, your frequency and pulls Gaia's frequency up, and the major changes take place, a lot of that will be revealed.
Oh, okay.
A lot of those type of questions.
Will be answered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because Bashar talks about being on the proper train.
Well, yeah, because if you're on the wrong train, you're not going to get lifted up.
Yeah. So now it's starting to make sense. Okay. Boy, he just dishes out a teaspoon of information at a time. So anyhow, speaking of Bashar, he talks about a template level of higher existence. In the book I'm reading, they talk about the astral plane as being that template area. Are those correct? Not a temporal area, template level of higher existence.
It's one way of looking at it, of describing it.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.